Richmond was a five-star recruit out of Memphis to the Tennessee Volunteers in 2015. He redshirted that initial season. Not a ton of five stars on every corner. So anytime you can get one, even if it's for just one season, even if they've underachieved, there's still that talent, that ability that's been untapped to a certain extent in Richmond's case. But he has made his way to USC, Matt.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because he just took a visit during spring practice and was at spring camp observing, seeing how things were going on his visit. And I think this is a good get for USC. USC, granted, their offensive line has gotten some positive reports, but it's always good to have some depth on the offensive line, especially noting that USC has had luck on the have had some bad luck with injuries, especially on the offensive line. So I think I think it's a good get for USC. I think it's something that he'll help USC. He'll bring also some veteran leadership to that offensive line as well. And if somebody goes down, he could slot right in, or who knows, maybe come fall camp, he could end up winning a starting job before they take the field on August 31st.
In his first initial assignment there in Knoxville was 2016 under Butch Jones, when the program was seemed to be headed in a right direction, going back to back 9-4. Josh Dobbs at quarterback. They had a ton of talent on offense, and they really exploded. And Drew Richmond, despite being thrown to the Wolves his first season out of the gate as a redshirt freshman, performed well. They had a change in offensive coordinators. Dobbs left via the NFL draft, other offensive players, and they just didn't have the support for him. And they changed the scheme, and Richmond has struggled to adapt. And now he wants one more shot to show what he's worth for the NFL draft. Got Matt Lowry on the line, Conquest Chronicles, talking USC football. This is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Lock it in right here. Subscribe, share the videos, like, and comment to help us build the channel and deliver the college football content and analysis you're looking for each and every day. All right, Matt, I've been looking forward to doing this. Did this probably 3 to 4 or 5 years ago, something like this. Had a whole lot of fun with a number of bloggers and broadcasters around the nation looking at their particular teams. All right, so everybody can play along with us. I'm first going to ask Matt to run down whether this is all time, whether this is just since you've been a fan or covering the team, the best wins. You don't have to have a criteria. It doesn't have to be Rose Bowls or championship games or anything like that. Just whatever for you were the best wins during that time frame.
There's been quite a few wins that I've seen as a USC fan growing up. One would have to be, and this one always sticks out, was the 55-19 Orange Bowl win over Oklahoma. Little tidbit there, I was actually in Korea with my dad. He was serving the military, was overseas with them, and I remember waking up at 6 a.m. just to watch the game at 7 to watch that game. And just, it was something that to me will always stick out. As a matter of fact, I remember meeting Sean Cody and telling him about it actually, and Sean Cody was just amazed that I was watching that game from where I was. But that was one. The 2005 Notre Dame game, the Bush Push game, that one's always my personal favorite as well. And I was just recently talking about it on Twitter too, the 2017 Rose Bowl game, a game that I was in attendance for, and a game that will always stick out to me as one of my favorites. As far as non-bowl games, I want to say the 2014, the 2013 Stanford game at the Coliseum. Just that night was just, you just knew it was meant for USC to win that game. And afterwards, getting the rush the field, granted, that don't really happen at the Coliseum as much, but getting the run on the field and celebrate with the players, and, that was just a personal favorite of mine that I will always cherish with me. Running on the Coliseum field after a huge win is something too. So thankfully I didn't I didn't get trampled or knocked over by a Stanford player or anything. So
now there's a nice list. I probably was watching that 2013 game. That didn't necessarily come to mind in regards to I can't remember what happened or if it was close. What were the dynamics of that game?
I do remember the game was close throughout the whole way. How the way USC started out, it was just something that you really haven't seen all season. So a lot of people may not remember the season started off not that well. Kiffin ended up getting fired after the blowout loss against ASU in Tempe. You know, they lost to Notre Dame in a close one, but the dynamics of that game, USC started out so strong. It was just something different about it. It's like you knew that wasn't going to happen, and the game was just so close. It was back and forth. It was so close, and when USC started getting stops late in the game, you just had that feeling like they're going to pull this off. They could pull this off. Granted, the last time they did that in 2011, that triple overtime loss, you know,
I remember that game.
yeah, you thought the same thing. You thought they were going to win it, and they didn't. So there was still some uneasy feelings around the Coliseum. Again, it was with it being back and forth, and the game-winning field goal, just the Coliseum just erupted. It was something that I had never seen in the Coliseum in person. You know, I know people bring up the 2004 Cal game, but I didn't get to go that game. So
November 16th, 2013, USC 20, Stanford 17. The Trojans finished 10-4 following a win over Fresno State in the Las Vegas Bowl 45-20. The Bush Push game, of course, infamous. Everyone that follows college football knows about that. A really good Notre Dame team in South Bend, USC, with a legendary team that was pushing toward another national championship before Texas got a hold of them. And of course, that was a classic game in and of itself. But USC, by some accounts, had won 2 consecutive national championships with the AP split in 2003. And then, of course, the game that Matt talks about in demolishing Oklahoma 55-19, a game that actually I ran through. This was probably, I don't know, 3 to 4 months ago, sometime during the off season, that I just kind of scrolled through. It wasn't much of a game, of course, but just trying to remember some things that had happened in that game. And I think Oklahoma actually scored first, and it was close for, I don't know, maybe one quarter possibly, and then USC just exploded, and I forget the halftime score, but yeah, just too much explosion. Despite Adrian Peterson, and Oklahoma had a number of players that I recognized as being fine NFL players, but USC just overwhelmed them in that one, and that's the year that many people would have liked to have seen Auburn play USC as well. All right, we got Matt Lowry on the line, USC football talk here, Conquest Chronicles. This is always a good off-season topic. So we hit you with the wins. Now the most excruciating losses that you've had to suffer, Matt.
The Texas one that you brought up earlier, that was really the most painful one that always sticks out to mind. And it's painful to the point of, to this day, recently, until the USC 30 for 30 came out, I have not seen a single highlight to that game since the 30 for 30 came out. When the 30 for 30 documentary came out, that was the first time that I've seen highlights of that game since watching that game. And mind you, I was a freshman in high school when that game was going on. So it took me a while to watch the highlights of that. Another excruciating loss would have to be the 2011 USC Stanford game. Just a game that was, again, charged with a lot of emotions, a lot of energy, and especially given that USC was serving a bowl ban at the time. They were in year 2 of the bowl ban and year 2 of the sanctions, actually. And you thought USC was going to pull it off, up 20-10. Think USC would pull it off, and that third overtime fumble in Curtis McNeil fumbles in the end zone, and that was that. I remember almost everybody was sitting in their seats in disbelief, you know, after that game. Just, I don't think I moved for about a good 10 minutes from my seat in the Coliseum. That's how painful that loss was. And I think those were the only two, honestly, that were really painful to me that stick out. I mean, there were other ones, but they were more embarrassing than excruciating, honestly.